Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where and when you're listening to this. Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Two Foot Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos, and before we address the football and before we do the formalities, I would like to apologise for the delay. Obviously, this is going out not in its traditional 9 a.m. time slot. Some technical difficulties occurred and it only took me 7 weeks, so you know what, that's a positive. I thought it happened a lot sooner than that, but so some technical difficulties didn't allow this to air, should we call it air? Yeah, let's call it airing at its proper time. This is going out at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, so only the 4-hour difference, which, you know what, it's not that big of a deal, but it's funny to think that it is. So I hope you're all doing well. I hope the week has treated you well. So a lot of football happened since last time we spoke. The Premier League is back, so a lot to talk about there. The Club World Cup has come and gone. I'm very happy about the results from that. Obviously we got 2 winning, 2-footed. Preview of the week. Champions League football's back, European football's back, so we all love to see it. And another Premier League is obviously back, and it's back in a big way with a couple of huge games happening this weekend. Firstly, before we start, I'd like to implore you all to like on Spotify, follow it on all the socials, Two Foot Tackle Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It'll come up, and chuck it a follow, give it a like, and on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the whole shebang, YouTube as well. Any engagement is greatly appreciated. Now, let's start as we always start with some A-League, and from the high of last week where victory. We'll start on victory. I probably should have said that. From the high last week where we won the FA Cup, it has come crashing down in a big way. A 1-0 loss to Wellington and a 2-1 loss to Newcastle. Disappointing, to say the least. I'm not too worried about it considering the circumstances in either match. Obviously, the game against Wellington was probably the more disappointing one out of the two. I wouldn't say we dominated, but we had the fair share of the ball, had the fair share of the chances, and it was just unlucky that it was a defensive mistake to cost us the win. And obviously against Newcastle, a red card to our captain and our key midfielder just at the start of the second half doesn't help. Obviously a dodgy penalty decision as well doesn't help. So unfortunate, but speaking on Tony Popovic's sentiment after the Newcastle game about the red card and the penalty, I think the red card is harsh, but it's probably there. The only thing that I have a worry about is he was given no leeway. Josh Balante committed 2 fouls, and then both were yellow cards. I think you just got to give a bit of nuance in that personally, but I'm no referee, so I don't know what I'm talking about really. And the penalty for me was never a penalty. He is as soft as you get, really, and it's just a shame that it had to cost us the 3 points. Obviously, we had a shot deflected off the line in the first half, which doesn't help, but you can't win them all, and we've learnt that the hard way. Victory. Now, Central Coast 3, Macarthur 3. I won't be running through all the games, just the key ones and the ones where things happened. I want to speak about this match purely because of Craig Newton and his absolute screamer of a goal. He belted that in. For those who didn't see it, it was the 90th minute, 89th minute. The ball gets crossed to the back post and outside of the foot, volley rifles it in the top corner, fading, like coming in and coming back. It was like a reverse swing in cricket, put it that way. Gorgeous goal, absolutely gorgeous goal. And really, the one thing that's annoying me, I think it's probably the best word about MacArthur, is the lack of excitement in their play. They've got such a talented team, like super exciting and creative players, and yet they're just very principled, which I mean, if it works for them, then fine, fair enough. But I want to see the likes of Craig Noone get up the pitch more. Obviously, he's playing as a wing back in a 5-man defence. I want to see him progressed. I want to see him get in advanced areas, receive the ball in better positions. But obviously, Milicic has his ways and isn't gonna move from then, you'd assume. Moving on to another Central Coast game. Central Coast 1, Perth 1. Obviously, a last-minute equaliser for Perth, which is good for them. But what we're here to talk about is Jason Cummings. The Cum Dog scores his first A-League goal. And, the memes are funny, right? And, he's called the Cum Dog. That's great. But it's on a quite serious level, it's a very shrewd signing. Like a very, very shrewd signing for Central Coast, because we've seen we've seen like English imports that have come from like the lower divisions of England either succeed, there's plenty of cases for that, or fail. And I think Jason Cummings is a good signing for Central Coast. He's what they need. He's a goal scorer, proven goal scorer, and you can't go wrong with one of those. I think it's a signing which has the potential to be not like club changing, because he's not a name. Like, he's a good player, but he's not a name. But he could really, really elevate Central Coast into places that they've lacked, especially since Daniel McBreen was there and like Bernie Abini. So it's shrewd is probably the definition for that signing. At the end of this weekend, Western United are top of the league, which I hate. Nothing against the club, it's just the 1-0 Merchants, and it's not good for the... it's harsh to say it's not good for the league, but you'd rather a Sydney or a Victory or a City or a Western Sydney or Adelaide, top of the, higher up in the league. Full credit to Western United. I don't really think many of the fans would be complaining that I hate them, because I'm not really sure they care. But good on them. They've built a solid team, well drilled. John Aloisi hasn't playing very just efficient football. It might not be the most exciting, but it's definitely very efficient, and they're getting the best out of what they have. So, full credit to them. How can I say otherwise? Moving on to offshore, as we always go. The Premier League. He was back. It started midweek. And I want to start off by speaking about Manchester United. Now, this will be in 2 parts, what I'm about to speak about, because obviously their 1-1 draw to Burnley and Southampton, if they had won both, they would have been 6 points clear in the top 4. So, it's fine margins, but they currently sit outside of the top 4 race, and I'm going to speak about this in 2 parts. You have the off-field side and the more mentality side, and the on-field just lack of whatever it is. Now, I'll speak about the on-field stuff first, and I won't touch on a certain English centre-half captain, because I'll speak about him later on. But it's kind of weird how obvious a lack of defensive midfielder that they have. It's bizarre that I can see it, 99.99% of United fans can see it, 100% of the media can see it, and they can say that they don't have a defensive midfielder, and yet they just persist with not buying one, persist with playing McTominay there, who I think is a fine player, but he's not a Manchester United level player in terms of starting at defensive midfield, starting as a 6 for them. And it's probably the most important position on the pitch, because what United lack in terms of defensive structure, which is probably their biggest weakness in terms of just overall structure, because what a defensive midfielder gives you, and I'm not even talking about a world class like a Rodri or like a Casemiro. I'm just about a solid someone like a Yves Bissouma, right? Who's good, Very good, in fact, but not world class, not like a Fabinho level, right? But what Fabinho does to Liverpool is it makes Virgil van Dijk and Joel Matip and Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson a 10 times better player. Purely because he's that like barrier. And he puts out fires, he can distribute, he like expands the play. So what United potentially lack in terms of clear distribution from the back and solid structure actually comes from the lack of a quality defensive midfielder, because someone like a Rice or someone like a Wilfred Ndidi, right? I know Wilfred Ndidi to a lesser extent because he's more of a destroyer and a ball-winning midfielder rather than a deep-lying playmaker, but what they do is that they provide options. They'll drag a striker out of position to cut off the passing lane, thus creating better and more obvious and more advanced passes, right? And they, I don't know, it's hard to articulate because it's just something that they need to do without it really being there's no reason, they just need to do it. If they had Declan Rice at the base of that midfield, he puts out fires, he puts out little counter-attacks, makes a professional foul here and there, does a well-timed tackle, heads the ball away, clears the ball, whatever. That makes Maguire and Varane instantly better because they have to defend less. And when they have to defend, it will be in less precarious situations, because the more precarious the situation, the more likely the defensive midfielder is to stop it. And not only that, on the ball, someone like a Declan Rice will present, he'll drop deep, he'll create a threat at the back, he's well versed in carrying the ball forward, and it allows Maguire especially, and I don't want to speak about him specifically too much because I'll speak about him a bit later, but it allows him and Varane to just be simple, to just play simple passes, simple 5-yard passes here and there, and then maybe they can take the ball up. Because Maguire and Varane are good ball carriers. They might not be the best ball playing centre-backs. They can't spray 40-yard balls like a Virgil van Dijk or a David Luiz. But they're big units who can carry the ball forward. Varane especially is very quick, and he can take the ball forward, he can break into midfield, and he can then dictate the play from there. That you can only do that if a defensive midfielder drops in. What Scott McTominay does and what Fred does, and I don't think Pogba's a defensive midfielder, so I won't put him in this bracket, right, is they hide. They hide behind the defender. They don't present. If they do, they just present for a bounce back. They don't really create. And if United get Declan Rice, I think that could be the missing piece of the puzzle, especially if they get someone like an Erik ten Hag or even a Zinedine Zidane, because he's so versatile and he's so good at adapting to situations where he can be that ball playing defensive midfielder 1 second and then bring out an N'Golo Kante defensive performance the next. And I'm not saying Declan Rice is the answer. I'm saying he could be the answer. And I'm not even saying that Declan Rice is the only midfielder they can get, because a certain Brazilian who went to Newcastle is probably the defensive midfielder they should have got. And I've said that for a long time. I think he was the man that United got, and if they'd got him, he could have been as influential as Bruno Fernandes was, because he is that good and he was that perfect for that defensive midfielder role. Now, obviously that's the defensive side out of the way. Now, they had something like 80 shots for 4 goals in the last 4 games or something like that. I don't understand how is it a confidence issue? Because a team with Ronaldo, Bruno, Rashford, Pogba, these quality players, how are they not scoring enough goals? And what my mind goes to is confidence, because of the hole that they're in. They're in a very deep hole, and it's a thing of they need to get that goal. They need to score. They don't any athlete in any walk of life will always say they perform their best when they're calm and when they're playoff instinct and they don't overthink things. What I saw, especially in the Southampton game, was their forwards overthinking every scenario, every counter-attack, every one-on-one. They were overthinking it. They took that fraction of a second, that half a second too long. Bang, you get shut down, keeper comes out, defender closes you down, and end of the attack. And that's where someone like a Cristiano Ronaldo, who I wasn't that now, I want to be careful when talking about Ronaldo, because obviously he's probably one of the best players in the world at the moment, and one of the best players to ever play the game. I would go as far as to say he's definitely top 3, probably even top 2 to ever play the game, right? And he obviously has a proven track record. He has more credits in the bank than 99.999% of footballers on the planet. Yet, I do think he's had... I wouldn't say he's had a negative influence on the team, but he certainly hasn't had a positive one. And you can tell. And this is where I'm going to slowly sway into the off-field and more mentality issue, because Ronaldo came to raise standards. And before I delve deep into this, Ronaldo is not the problem. He certainly is a problem to an extent, just like pretty much all the players are a problem to an extent. He's not the main one, probably not even in the top 10. But with Ronaldo, he's this leader. He's this presence, this charismatic leader. When he's pretty much throwing his toys out the pram and storming off against Burnley at full time, it's not a good look at all. And his undroppable nature isn't creating, in my opinion, a good atmosphere for that United team, because he's pretty much obliged to start every game, even when the game doesn't suit, the style doesn't suit him. And the reason why I was very worried about Ronaldo coming was I don't think Ole was the best person to get the best out of him. I was proven right to an extent. Obviously, he did have a very, very, very good start of the season, but he has slowly petered off, and under Rangnick, it's actually gone even worse. The reason why is because Rangnick's system is high tempo, high intensity. You can't sacrifice for a player. What you get with Ronaldo is you sacrifice. You sacrifice potentially another attacker for Ronaldo, because he's equivalent of 2 attackers, right? And why he was so good at Real Madrid, Juventus to a lesser but still real extent, was Zinedine Zidane in particular. And even in his later years, he became people would think that Ronaldo was in his prime when he was at Real Madrid the whole time. That's not true. Towards his latter stages of Real Madrid, he was what he is now. Granted, he was a little bit more mobile, yes, but he was what he is now. And when they played the Diamond, Karim Benzema was the most underrated footballer on the planet. And we've seen now just how good he is by how he's performing now. And Benzema sacrificed himself pretty much to allow Ronaldo to do what he does best. And you're not going to get that you're certainly not going to get that from Bruno. You're certainly not going to get that from Marcus Rashford. I think you will get that for Edison Cavani, but there's a whole different issue with him. You're not going to get that from Jadon Sancho. He's come for £70 million. I'm not sure he wants to be a off-the-ball pressure merchant, to put it in light terms. It's a thing of there's so many problems with them off pitch, right? And with regards to Rangnick, right, I've always said when he was appointed, I was like, they've struck gold. Not because of his managerial ability. I think he's a fine manager. He'd probably be top 7 in the league, top 6 in the league, maybe 8, right? But as a footballing brain, he's out of this world good. Look at the work he's done in bringing in players before they're the best. That's what United have see, it's this thing when players know they're the best, they have an ego, right? So what you need to do is get players there's two advantages for getting players when they're young. You get them for cheap. You get them for cheap, obviously, and then you get them when they don't have an ego. When a player is young and hungry, they will fight for their place in the team. That's what Rangnick has that ability to identify. He identifies players who are young and are hungry, right? So United's problem, I'm struggling to articulate this properly, but what United have done is they've identified the big fish, your Jadon Sancho's, your Bruno Fernandes was the best player in the Portuguese league, right? Your Paul Pogba's, your Cristiano Ronaldo's, etc., etc. What they've identified them pretty easy. Everyone knows how good they are. What Rangnick will come in in the coming seasons is he'll identify the young players who haven't quite proven themselves yet, and they will have a point to prove, and they will be more willing to sacrifice themselves for a place in the team because they know where they want to get to, and they don't have this ego of I'm so good, I need to play every week and I need to play in a certain role. So it's going to be very interesting to see who they bring in. I think Erik ten Hag is the answer, although I think if City are smart, they get Erik ten Hag in ASAP because he is the successor to Pep Guardiola, and it's nearly uncanny how similar they are and how similar they play in terms of their teams. It's near uncanny, right? And I do think United would be more suited to a Zinedine Zidane. And what you get with Zidane is a person who, firstly, is a master man manager. Like, he got that Real Madrid side to play unbelievable football when there was Bale, Benzema, Modric, Kroos, Varane, Ramos, Ronaldo, Casillas, all these, Dani Carvajal, all these egos, Marcelo, I can keep going on, Bale, Isco, like all these egos in the team, and he got him to click because he's so intelligent. And he's potentially the only manager in the world, I would go as far as to say, where every single footballer on the planet respects. Because if you're Paul Pogba and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer walks in the room, Paul Pogba will look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and think, who the fuck, like, who are you? Like, with all due respect, who are you? Whereas everyone knows who Zinedine Zidane is. He's probably top 10 footballers ever. So everyone will have respect for him. No one will want to cross him. That's my thoughts on it. I'll speak about a certain English centre-half a bit later. But, yeah, that's my 2 cents on the problems United have and what they could do to fix it, because it's going to be tough. Moving on, Newcastle 3, Everton 1. I'm pretty sure that secures Newcastle's safety. I don't think that will worry them anymore, and it's almost as if they haven't really got the most out of their team. Obviously, Dan Burn hasn't really settled in. Bruno Guimaraes hasn't really settled in. Granted, Kieran Trippier, yes, has. And Chris Wood has, yes, as well, who's been a little bit disappointing. But if the results stay the same, I think he'll be fine. And they've just done it. Like, they like, to put it bluntly, they've done it. They've stayed up. And Kieran Trippier being so influential once again. And he will go down as one of the better signs. Like he'll be a Newcastle cult hero if he can stay with his club until they win their next trophy, which who knows how long that will be. That could be the FA Cup, that could be the League Cup, could be Prem, Champions League, Europa League, whatever, right? If he stays with his club until they win the first trophy as captain, he will go down as a Newcastle legend because he's been that catalyst. He was the first signing, he was a marquee signing, he's English, like, there's just something about him and that team with that signing. Everton, they could go down. Like, seriously, they could go down. It's almost as if people can't fathom it because, like, it's Everton. They're too good to go down. And that too good to go down myth or whatever you want to call it, has been disproven countless times by the likes of, obviously, but that Too Good to Go Down has gone as far back as West Ham in the mid-2000s with like the team with Scott Parker, and I think Joe Cole was in that team, Paolo Di Canio. These are not world class, but very, very good players, and they still went down. So that whole Too Good to Go Down thing is not a thing anymore. Like, it is serious. Anyone could go down. And the thing is with Everton, if they go down, Richarlison would want to leave, Calvert-Lewin would want to leave, Doucouré, Alan, Holgate, Mina, Godfrey, Pickford, all these players would want to leave because they're on ridiculous amounts of money, they're Premier League quality, and Everton have invested so much money that if they go down, it's so dangerous. And it's not just us Sunderland fans, it's not that easy to jump straight back up. Yes, Newcastle have done it, Norwich have done it. It doesn't happen to everyone. Forest have been in there for ages. Leeds just got back. Like, Villa struggled for a bit. It's not an instant thing. The Championship is it's a tough league. And when you're unsettled as a team, it's even tougher. I want them to stay up because obviously Frank Lampard, I adore him, and I want him to succeed. And yeah, but it is what it is. Newcastle will stay up, Everton might not. Moving on to Tottenham, obviously I'll speak about both their games. They choked a 2-1 lead to Southampton and lost 3-2, and they lost 2-0 to Wolves. Spurs are in a hole. They're in a deep, deep, deep hole because their squad is not good enough. Granted, they have probably one of the best managers in the league and probably the world, but their squad is lower level Premier League quality because apart from Kane and apart from Son, there is no excitement. There is no real like game-winning quality. Yeah, Højbjerg is okay, like he's a solid defensive midfielder, but there's just nothing there that excites me as a neutral supporter. There's nothing there that screams to me, oh yeah, we're going places, we're going to go back to where we were a couple of seasons ago under Poch. Like, they are in a hole, and they're inches away from being where Arsenal were a couple of seasons ago. But their one saving grace is that Antonio Conte is probably, like we said, one of the best managers in the league. And the thing is, if Conte doesn't get backing from the board, he will leave. He does not care. He doesn't care about your story. If he's not happy with the circumstance, he will leave. And that would be the worst case scenario for Spurs. They need to keep Antonio Conte, and they need to give him bucket loads of money. It is ungodly how much money they need to give him because he's absolutely crucial to success. And it's a thing of I don't understand why they haven't, because they brought in Conte and they thought, oh, he'll be fixed. And they sold Dele Alli, yeah, fine, and they brought in Kulusevski and Bentancur, but they're not the quality of player that they need. They need a proper player. Players, plural. And it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to transform this team. Like, just having Antonio Conte, they need investment. And they spent £1 billion on a stadium. They surely can afford a few more players of world-class quality. The Villa 3 leads 3. Who knew Philip Coutinho would be this good? Obviously, all jokes aside, Phil Coutinho is something special. We all knew that, but he's just taken his game and has really exploded back on the Premier League scene. A goal, 2 assists, obviously Jacob Ramsey with 2 goals, so who knew that was the central midfield partnership that would see Villa climb the table. Moving on, Arsenal 1, Wolves 0. The key talking point coming out of that game was obviously Martinelli's red card. I think it's A, very harsh, but B, also correct. I think it was harsh. I think that rule is correct, but it was just harsh that was the first time I've ever seen it. For those who didn't see it, Martinelli. So the first incident was Martinelli pushed a Wolves player as he was taking a throw-in, clear yellow card, and in the same phase of play, he pushed the counter-attack. So basically the throw went onto a player who was on a counter-attack, and a professional foul by Martinelli brought him down. Now, in isolation, both incidents are yellow cards, but it's harsh that it happened like that, but it is what it is. I think it was the right decision. But yeah, it's I can understand Arsenal fans' fury, but it's the right decision. Everton 3-0 leads, Lampard's first win. They needed that big time. I still think they're in a hole, like I said, but they needed that big time. And with that saying, I don't think you should take a lot out of a Leeds game, because it's Leeds. Sometimes, Leeds are very much an enigma in the Premier League. Some teams absolutely batter them, some teams struggle, and it's all about styles. So yeah, I wouldn't really take too much out of that, which is a shame because they really should. But if they can back it up next week, then they'll be on the right track. Liverpool 1, Burnley 0. So ever unconvincing, but I'm not sure Liverpool fans care. That keeps the title race open. They're 9 points behind with the game in hand, so if they win their game in hand, 6 points behind, and then it's all to play for. Newcastle keep winning, 1-0 win over Villa. Solid performance. Now, my team, Chelsea, didn't play in the Premier League because we were too busy being crowned the best club in the world. They beat Al Hilal 1-0 and Palmeiras 2-1. And I'll tell you firstly, before I speak about it, I find it extremely funny that FIFA, the official FIFA YouTube channel, got the game copyright striked and taken off the website. That is hilarious, and that just is a perfect summation of FIFA as a company. Yes, it was unconvincing both games, but Chelsea got it done, officially crowned the best club in the world. I really don't understand why the media snubbed this award. Not only is it just another piece of silverware, but it's also being crowned the best club in the world, officially. Liverpool were the last English team to win it. It's been dominated by Real Madrid and Barcelona. The last English team in the final before Liverpool were Chelsea in 2011 against Corinthians, and they lost 1-0. And Chelsea, you speak to any Chelsea fan, that was there. They are heartbroken and they haven't gotten over that. So it's good that we got our revenge finally. It's been nearly a decade, but we got it. Moving on to Serie A. Napoli dominate but failed to beat Inter 1-1, and AC Milan beat Sampdoria 1-0 to set up a title race, which has AC Milan 1 point clear at the top of the table, but Inter have a game in hand. So if Inter win their game in hand, it will be Napoli 4 points behind Inter and AC Milan 2 points behind Inter. Personally, I don't really care who wins that, but I would like to see AC Milan win it. Although seeing Napoli would be good fun, considering they haven't done it in ages. But I want to see AC Milan win it, purely because obviously the history, and also Olivier Giroud deserves another title. As I said last week, one of the best French strikers in the modern era. Atalanta 1, Juventus 1. This would normally set up a title, but this year it's setting up top 4. This puts Juve 2 points clear with Atalanta a game in hand, so that's going to hot up. Another title race that could hot up is in the Bundesliga. Bayern losing 4-2. This opens up the title to Dortmund, who can creep up on Bayern and really put the Jets on and just get ever so close to them. Moving on to Spain, nothing much happened in France, so we won't talk about that. PSG won, and they're going to win the league. I can just cut a clip, that clip, and just put it in every episode from now until the end of the season. Atletico Madrid salvaged 3 points at the very last gasp, but once again, they had a 4-3 win after going down 3-2 and were down 10 men. Keeps top 4 hopes alive for them, which yeah, good for them because they need it. And it's between them and Barcelona for top 4. Be interesting to see who gets it. Very interesting to see who gets it. Moving on to the only segments I have on this podcast, Who Went Into Footed. It is, if you haven't seen this podcast before, this is the segment where I go through from the week's football, a player, club, team, organisation, pundit, fan, whoever, stadium even, who did something daft, who stuffed up, who is just did something so dumb. And this isn't an isolated incident, and I've already alluded to it, but Harry Maguire is this week's recipient. Not because of what he did do, but what he didn't do. To put it bluntly, Harry Maguire is not a Manchester United level centre-half. He's not even a top 10 Premier League team centre-back. He's relegation level centre-half. He's just so ill-equipped to be a captain of Manchester United. It is unbelievable. He has let them down time after time after time. He's so inept defensively. It is unbelievable. And how Leicester scammed United for £80 million is beyond me, because he's, and I don't want to be too harsh, but he's rubbish. Like, he's just not good enough. And if he keeps that armband, it's an indictment of United as an organisation, because it came to a head over the weekend. He was absolutely appalling, and he was lucky that United didn't lose either of those 2 games, because he was shocking. And it was appalling to see someone with that role and that responsibility underperform like that. And it's a disappointing, because you want to see Manchester United as a team, and you want to see their captain perform well. And to see him do that and to dish up those performances, underwhelming to say the least. I wanted to keep that brief because I don't really want to speak about him too much. But yeah, Harry Maguire needs to fix up ASAP. Moving on, previews of the week ahead. Champions League football is back. How fucking good's that? We're just going to give some quick predictions of some games. PSG, Real Madrid. I'll go with PSG. We'll go PSG 1, Real Madrid 1. No, PSG 2, Real Madrid 1. I think PSG will get it done at home. Although that game could go either way. That's definitely the best tie for the early stages. Sporting versus Man City. Let's go with Man City will win that pretty comfortably. Let's go Sporting 0-3 Manchester City. Nothing much to comment on that. Inter Milan versus Liverpool, probably the one for the purists. Very, very, very rich game in terms of history and integrity in this fixture. It's in Italy, Inter Milan's home game, so I'll go with Inter Milan 1, Liverpool 1. I think it'll be all to play for at Anfield. And Salzburg versus Bayern Munich. I think Munich will get through pretty comfortably. So in the first leg, you'll be Munich 3, Salzburg 0. Moving on to the BTEC Champions League, aka the Europa League. Barca versus Napoli. Who would have thought Barcelona would be in the Europa League? I really like Napoli, man. I really like Napoli, and I just don't think Barcelona have the to put in lack of a better phrase, cojones to perform in a slightly lesser competition. They don't have that character to perform when it's not a big game, in my opinion. And I'll go with Napoli 2, Barcelona 0. No, Barcelona 1. Barca will get a goal, but Napoli will win. And Dortmund versus Rangers. I really want Rangers to win because I want to see a Scottish club do well. But we'll go with Dortmund 2, Rangers 1. But Rangers will make it a challenge at home when they verse them. Moving to the Premier League predictions, Man City versus Spurs. Spurs need to win that game. They're in such a hole, but I don't think they will. So I'm going to go with but I don't think they'll lose it either. I think Conte will pull it out of the bag. To be honest, I'm going to go with Man City 1, Spurs 1. I think they'll get a point, and if they do, the title race, especially if Liverpool win their game in hand, back on. And Leeds versus United, again another game which is must win for either side really, but really for United. United match up really well against Leeds. I don't think there'll be too much issue there. Let's go with Leeds 2, United 4. Let's go with that. Why not? Let's have one out there prediction. United need to win. They should win. They will win. They match up really well against Leeds, and yeah, I don't think Leeds are there yet to make that derby upset. That's all for this week. We battled through the technical difficulties. We battled through the 11:52 p.m. recording session, which I'm doing at the moment. But yes, thank you all very much for watching. It has been a struggle, but we got there. I hope the week's football treats you well. Stay well, stay safe, and see you guys. Bye.